Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Thursday, June the 13th. Race number 9 at Santa Anita. Let's throw up the field. First level allowance with a $100,000 claiming option. We're going 1 mile on the turf. Field of 10 in here, Mike. Fairly wide open race. You've got European imports, stretch outs, recent maiden winners, and horses that have done well previously in stakes races.
Yeah, and no strong favorite on the morning line, which I guess is how it should be, Dan. This is handicaps as a fairly wide open race.
A couple of stretch out sprinters figure to provide the pace as we throw up our time form US pace projector. The 3, All That Glory, just missed in the Desert Code for stakes. 3-year-old stakes horses last time out going down the hill. That horse will stretch out, as will the 1 Charge for Gold. They'll be up and on the lead.
Got to believe they're going to be using their speed here as they stretch out for the first time. I won't argue with the pace projector, Dan. It will be interesting, though, to see how fast this pace gets.
The Charge for Gold, the number 1, has stretched out in distance in the past. Runner-up in the Eddie Logan Stakes back at the end of 2023. Caught a pretty decent runner in Lord Bullington that day. Was able to make the pace, held on pretty well for second. So picking up minor awards in recent starts. Do you think stretching out in distance sparks a little bit of a wake-up call, or does the presence of the other stretch-out sprinter sort of nullify his chances?
I'm sure they would prefer that there wasn't that much other speed in the race. I don't know what to do with him, Dan. I mean, it's mildly interesting that they're going to stretch him out again. But I'm a little worried about this horse going longer again in this race, because that Eddie Logan, which was a fine performance, that pace wasn't fast. And he had no real excuse in there, and they've been pretty reluctant to stretch him out again since then. Now they're going to try it here. I think it's the right spot to try it, but I'm worried that he doesn't really want to go this far.
He has held his own against stakes horses, also finishing third in the Baffle going down the hill at 6.5. But Mike's point is well taken. The only lifetime win going 5/8 of a mile, and he could face some pace heat in the early stages. The 2 is El Rey Rey, and this guy seems to be coming into form, Mike. He's hit the board in his last 3 starts, including a 3rd place finish going 9 furlongs last time out. I don't mind him cutting back to this distance, the distance of his lone prior victory, especially in a race that could set up well for his closing ways.
Yeah, I like that about him too, Dan. I think the shorter distance could be better for him. I like his form overall anyway. He's been behind Moonlit Sonata in each of his last 2 starts. That horse is back in here as well, but it's been very close between them. Won't be surprised when he turns the table this time. I think he's very fairly priced at 5-1.
All That Glory is the number 3. This guy earned a stakes placing in his most recent start. We're going to take a look at that race right now. That's the Desert Code going down the hill at 6.5 furlongs. And All That Glory, this is his game. He shows good early speed, and he dug in pretty gamely here to just miss by a nose to an odds-on winner. Now he's got to stretch out, but this horse seems to be pretty good, and he's really improved since switching to the lawn.
Yeah, it does seem like he's really handled the turf. I like this performance from him here. He's very, very game in this race, Dan. And his speed, it seems like it's really going to play in here. If you're a figure player, I mean, he's your guy. He sort of stands out here with his last 2 Beyer speed figures. So we'll see if he can run those kinds of races going longer, because that's the real key to the race here.
Now, in his maiden win, they basically ran 1-2 all the way around the track, and he was able to control the pace that day. He's got to go longer. He's got to face other pressure. Looking at his pedigree, does it concern you a little bit? His sire, of course, Golden Sense, was a miler. The Dam won sprinting. The Dam's a half to a horse that was a really good sprinter as well, won the Vanderbilt. Does this distance bother you from a pedigree standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to get too caught up in it when they're only going a mile, Dan, because I feel like most of them will get this far with the right kind of a trip. But his pedigree really is slanted more towards sprint.
Promicio is up next. Let's take a look at his most recent victory, and it's kind of important because he's the only 2-time winner in this field. Here's Promicio taking the measure of $50,000 starter allowance foes. He did get a good pace to attack, but he does finish it off once he gets straightened out in the stretch.
Nothing wrong with this performance. I don't feel like, Dan, at least when I look at him, I don't feel like if he just runs this race back that he's going to beat this field. You can see just sort of a cavalry charge here to the stretch, and everybody's within a few lengths at the wire. I'm just not sure, how good that race was overall. This horse ran fine in there. I like his form overall. He's clearly better on turf than he is on the other surfaces. I just feel like he might be in a pretty tough spot here.
Rastaman Vibe, the number 5, goes out for trainer Peter Urton. They tried him down the hill into Desert Code. He finished behind All That Glory that day. 2 starts back in the first level allowance, going 9 furlongs that we referenced. I thought all in all the trip was there for him. He just wasn't as good as a couple of these others. He has won at this distance, maybe 6.5 too short, 1 1/8 too long. Maybe this is just right.
That's a fair way to look at him at a price, because he is going to be a price in here. I didn't love his Desert Code last time, although you don't have to hold that race against him. I was, more worried about the race 2 starts. starts back, where I just didn't see his excuse that he's facing some of those same horses.
Sketchy seems to have gotten slowly better with more distance. Let's watch his most recent effort. Now, keep in mind, this race was about 3 months ago. This is a maiden win where he stayed relatively close to a solid pace, going a mile and an eighth, and grinds it out to win. The third place finisher came back to place in a maiden special, but earned a very respectable 76 Beyer speed figure.
Yeah, I just like the way that he was sort of progressing. He's still very lightly raced. It felt like he was just getting better with every start, and adding more distance didn't really seem to affect him. Ultimately, Dan, I liked that win last time. I think there's a good trip coming for this horse. And if he just takes one more small forward move, I guess he could be there. He's 15-1 on the line.
His barn mate is the number 7, the Rabbi, who sold for a lot of money as a 2-year-old in training and somehow went off at 41-1 in his career debut, going 3/4 of a mile. This is a likable performance from the Rabbi because it's not like they were really running and gunning here. They went the half in 45-4, but once this horse swings out into the clear after a poor start, he makes up a ton of ground, reels in these horses, and is going away. Nice debut.
Yeah, really good debut here. You're right, Dan. It's not like they were flying on the front end. He's really the only one making up ground, and he goes right over the top of these horses. Like, really impressive debut. And now he's got to stretch out only 2 a mile, but it's a totally different ball game here. We'll see if he can get the right setup in here and make another late run into this race. I find it hard to nitpick with that debut, Dan. He looks really good winning.
Bada Bing is up next. This horse has raced once in his career. It was overseas over the all-weather at Dundalk Stadium. A really nice-looking performance that day to score his debut. Privately purchased since, now with Phil D'Amato. Gets Lasix for the first time. That win came at a mile on the synth. He's certainly bred for turf.
I liked that the debut win did come over a mile. Then when you go back and pull the replay, I know it was on a different surface. He got a great trip in there overall. But man, did it look like he was going to win from a long way out there. I mean, just sat him covered up behind horses. The seam came in the stretch. I thought he won really easily in that race. He might have enough talent here. You're right. He's bred to be a turf horse, so it's no surprise that this is the surface they run him on. I see him now. I didn't have the final edition up there when I first looked at it. I see him as the morning line favorite now, which I'm not thrilled with, but I think this horse is going to be really tough in here.
Runner-up came right back to win his next start over the all-weather there, and he did beat a big, bulky field of 13. Sorrento Sky is the number 9. This horse won his North American debut going a straight 6.5 furlongs, then hit the board right back going 6. Now, last time out in the Desert Code, I thought, again, the trip was there, but once they sprinted away from him, he could not keep up. I wonder if he'll be better at a mile. I kind of am looking forward to seeing this horse stretch out. I think he's going to handle it.
Yeah, I like that about him too. I mean, they've kept him relatively short here, especially in the 3 starts for D'Amato. But I think this horse could be better with a little bit more distance attached. I don't have a huge excuse for him last time, but I think a little more distance could make a big difference for this horse.
Timmy Octanes obviously thought a lot of the 10 Moonlit Sonata after a debut victory at a big price, beating All That Glory on dirt. They ran him in a couple of graded stakes races on the main track. He's not that kind of a horse, but he's been reinvented as a turf router, and he's run well in both grass tries, including this effort where he was wired in a first-level allowance race. Not a ton of pace. I thought all in all, the trip was there for him. He's going to get to the outside. He's going to have his shot. He just can't reel in this horse that was able to get to the front on him.
Yeah, I didn't listen. He has every chance to win here, and he just sort of can't get the job done. There's nothing wrong with this performance, but it's not a great one either. We'll see. Then I have no problem with the 2 turf races he's run so far. I wonder how much more improvement he still has in him in this race. He's defeated El Rey Rey in his last 2 starts. I'd kind of rather have that horse than this one.
Well, he was able to save ground from the rail last time out. That trip very likely not available to him, breaking from a tough post position 10 with a relatively short run to the first turn. Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Let's take a look at our top picks for our Thursday race of the day. You're going with Bada Bing, first time North America, but in the hands of a very good trainer in Phil D'Amato, and a good-looking win going a mile.
Liked his debut. I think they ship him in here and find a pretty good spot for him. Dan, there's none of these horses that have been running regularly in California. Not really that afraid of any of them. I feel like that this horse just runs his race here and gets out of the gate. Well, I think he can be pretty tough in this spot.
Curious to see how far All That Glory, the number 3, gets, stretching out for the first time. Like the way he's won. As Mike mentioned, the figures are there. The 5 and the 9 have been chasing him in recent starts. I kind of like them stretching back out around 2 turns one more time at prices. 8, 10, 2, and 9 for Mike. 3, 5, 9, and 10 for me. Nice first level allowance at the Great Race Place. It's race number 9 on Thursday. Best of luck.